When Iran unveiled footage of a cavernous hangar carved into rock and a fighter taxiing out beneath a guard of concrete, the world paid attention. The facility was presented as Oghab 44, Eagle 44, Iran's first formal subterranean tactical airbase. State TV framed it as a defensive marvel, hardened, concealed, and able to shelter both manned fighters and modern drones. For enemies and analysts alike, the sight of aircraft rolling out of a mountain was a reminder that the post-Cold War equation of open air bases and exposed runways can be rewritten by steel, concrete, and deep geology. The unveiling was simultaneously a technical statement and a strategic message. Iran, the broadcast suggested, has a protectable aerial nerve center that could survive first strikes and operate from places the satellite cameras are not supposed to see. Iran publicly revealed Eagle 44 in February 2023, and analysts quickly began triangulating its likely location. Open reporting places the facility in mountainous terrain of Hormozgan province, roughly northwest of Bandar Abbas, a placement that overlooks the Persian Gulf and stands within reach of the Strait of Hormuz, a choke point that carries a large share of global oil shipments. The choice of site is not accidental. By embedding a protected airfield within the coastal range, Iran reduces the vulnerability of its aviation assets and gains the ability to project power over maritime approaches while complicating any adversary's targeting picture. The footage released by Iranian media and shown to visiting military officials shows enormous carved caverns with concrete aprons, internal taxiways, hangar doors the size of apartment blocks, support infrastructure and space for multiple aircraft. State images depict fighters and what appear to be large drones sitting inside the complex. Some open-source imagery and later reporting has shown mock-ups or replicas of advanced fighters placed at the site, a reminder that part of the public unveiling is performative. The outward display serves two purposes: to demonstrate technical progress to a domestic audience and to signal to regional rivals that Iran can protect and operate high-value air assets even after the opening salvos of a conflict. Iranian statements have claimed Eagle 44 can accommodate a range of platforms, fighters, bombers, and a wide variety of unmanned aerial vehicles. Analysts reading the configuration conclude the facility is intended to host tactical jets and loitering or strike drones, and to provide maintenance, arming, and rapid sortie generation while protected from aerial bombardment. The implication is important. Hardened underground basing alters the calculus of an opponent that once relied on targeting airfields and runways to gain early air superiority. Having aircraft survive the opening phase of a conflict allows Iran to sustain sorties, strike back, or operate covertly from unexpected directions. Eagle 44 is not a flash in the pan. Iran's military doctrine and history show a pattern of dispersal and hardening. Silos, revetments, and underground facilities date back decades, rooted in survivalist strategy against superior air forces. During the Iran-Iraq War, and through years of international isolation, Tehran invested in protecting its limited high-value assets. Eagle 44 is a continuation of that logic scaled up for a modern era of drones, long-range missiles, and precision strikes. In other words, the base fits into a long-standing Iranian preference. Deny an adversary decisive first strike advantage by making assets hard to find and hard to kill. Placing a hardened airbase near the Strait of Hormuz serves both defensive and offensive purposes. Defensively, it keeps fighters and strike drones sheltered from long-range standoff weapons and air campaigns, allowing Iran to try to preserve a retaliatory or area denial capability. Offensively, operating from fewer visible and more survivable locations complicates threat timelines for adversaries transiting the Gulf, and makes preemption or suppression of Iranian air operations more difficult. In crisis, the base could be used for maritime strike operations, long-range patrols, or as a dispersed hub, to launch unmanned sorties that harass shipping or target adversary forces. That dual utility elevates Eagle 44 from a bunker to a strategic node. Even hardened underground facilities have limits. Very large bunker-busting munitions, persistent satellite surveillance combined with human, cyber attacks on logistics and airframes, and maritime interdiction can degrade their utility. Weathering. An initial strike does not guarantee sustainment under a prolonged campaign, especially if resupply and maintenance lines are interdicted. Technical constraints. The types of aircraft that can be operated from internal aprons, taxiway geometry, and sortie generation rates will set practical limits on mission tempo. In short, Eagle 44 raises the bar for an attacker but does not make Iran invincible. Analysts must weigh the base's survivability against operational realities. Eagle 44 shifts regional planning. Israel, the Gulf states, the U.S. and coalition partners now have to incorporate a more resilient Iranian air posture into contingency planning. For naval planners, the ability of Iran to launch from concealed inland sites complicates anti-ship missile and air defense timelines. For diplomacy, it hardens Tehran's bargaining position. Infrastructure that survives strikes reduces the coercive leverage of rapid punishing blows. That, in turn, may encourage both deterrence and miscalculation. Defenders must choose whether to invest in costly long-reach strike options or accept higher levels of risk in certain scenarios. If Eagle 44 proves operationally useful, expect Iran to expand similar facilities, harden logistics links, and integrate the base into a wider network of air and missile forces. Counter-responses from other states could include expanded ISR, intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance, assets, more aggressive targeting of supply lines, or investments in long-range precision weapons that can defeat hardened structures. Diplomatically, the base adds friction to talks. It is a bargaining chip and a liability. The coming years will show whether Eagle 44 remains a symbol or becomes a fulcrum of sustained regional power projection. Eagle 44 is a physical embodiment of a strategic lesson that small or isolated powers learned in the last century. Vulnerability is relative, and concealment plus hardening can offset conventional disadvantages. Whether Iran uses the base primarily for deterrent signaling, real combat operations, or as an insurance policy for a narrow air fleet, its existence complicates the calculus of any actor contemplating swift aerial campaigns in the region. The base does not solve all of Iran's problems, but it changes the geometry of risk, buys time in a crisis, and forces adversaries to plan for a conflict that is more protracted and more complex than they may have assumed. If this deep dive into Eagle 44 helped you understand how underground infrastructure reshapes modern conflict, subscribe for more documentary-style analyses of emerging military developments. Tell us in the comments which angle you want next. Satellite imagery breakdown, technical deep dive on hardened shelters, or scenario analyses of an Eagle 44 era crisis. And hit the bell so you don't miss the next episode.